Robert F. Kennedy Jr. joined Cornel West in abandoning their party affiliations and running as independents in 2024. Now, both candidates have been adamant that the Democratic establishment and mainstream media machine is working overtime trying to push them off the campaign trail. Co-host of Pod Save America, Jon Favreau, had this message for the two non-affiliated candidates.
As an independent candidate with no party, it's really hard to get on the ballot in 50
hurdle,
states.
for sure.
And it's also, we should say that Cornel West, who was running for the Green Party nomination, which made me pretty nervous because the Green Party's on the ballot in many states, including a lot of swing states, announced last week that he's also running as an independent candidate, not running for the Green Party nomination. So it's like, I don't know how Cornel West or RFK Jr. is going to, at this stage, get ballot access for, even if it's not all 50 states, at least a lot of them.
John Lovett, also a co-host, weighed in, lamenting that our democratic systems allow candidacies of independent watch.
I find it all to be just sort of like a despicable, narcissistic, kind of pointless exercise. Everyone involved in it should be completely ashamed. But the thing that worries me most is like that we have a politics that makes space for all of this noise, that like his name ID and the fact that there are all these sort of avenues for someone with these anti-vax, like conspiracy theory views, like that there are all these sort of like organs that exist to kind of get that in front of a lot of people's eyeballs. It's just like, we don't have a good way to like keep, like to tamp down this kind of noise.
So I was listening to this episode as I was doing some shopping yesterday, some grocery shopping. I listened to Pod Save America. I do think that it tells you facts of the news if you can get through the filter of it. And it also gives you a good sense of what the mainstream liberal establishment is talking about. This is a podcast staffed by a bunch of former speechwriters for the Obama administration. So you really get a sense of what the insiders in Washington are thinking at any moment.
And what they're thinking is that these are the glorious defenders of democracy, people that constantly talk about what a threat to our democratic institutions the right. And Trump and all those other fascists represent. And here they are bemoaning that one of the most central and basic tenets of our democracy, that anyone who is born in the country and over 35 can run for president. How despicable. That was their words. Despicable that you could do that you could run for president. They think that that's the democratic process. He is explicitly saying that is despicable to its fundamental core, that anyone would dare oppose Joe Biden. I mean, he was mad when RFK Jr. was doing it from within the Democratic Party. He's mad when they're doing it from without the Democratic Party. He'd be mad if he was doing it from within the Green Party or the Libertarian Party or as an independent. How dare you run against Joe Biden? That's what they're saying. And these are the people who for whom the democracy itself is at stake in every election, they say, if somebody other than Joe Biden were to
I am so glad that you're as irritated by that clip as I was, because it's not just the I'm so mad our political institutions allow for people to run as independents piece of it. There's also this I'm so mad our media infrastructure doesn't give us an ability to shut this down and censor people who, because of their name and name recognition and family identity, are able to get so much public traction right off the bat. Like, that was another pernicious piece of this. And that sort of thing gets said casually all the time on shows like this and this particular podcast. And there's not even an iota of pushback. They have no sense of introspection. They have no idea how they sound. But I did want to get to the point that Jon Favreau raised at the top, which is it strategically a good idea for Cornel West to have left the Green Party? Jon Favreau says he was worried about Cornel West more on the Green Party ballot line because the Green Party has an infrastructure to get on the ballot more so than an independent candidate. Now, I interviewed Cornel West yesterday for my own podcast, Bad Faith, and that'll be coming out on Thursday. And I asked him this question directly. And his feeling is that there are some states where an independent has to get a bigger threshold for signatures to get on the ballot line. There are some states where independents have a lower threshold and some states where it's the same, and that he is confident that he is going to be able to get on a similar number of ballots that he would with the Green Party. But I also asked him, well, can you give us some evidence of how you're going to be able to do that? Do you have enough campaign funding to support signature collectors in those states? Do you already have volunteer commitments? What does that look like? And you tell me what you think of his answer when you hear that.
Yeah, I'm totally neutral here, but My guess is that Cornel West is going to have a much more difficult time being on the ballot in all 50 states as an independent candidate than he would as a member of the Green Party.
Yeah.
And also, part of the goal, because realistically, unfortunately, neither Cornel West or the Green Party candidate or my precious Libertarian candidate, whoever they are, is going to win the election. One of the kind of the biggest goal is to get enough, is to clear what the 5% or whatever threshold it is for federal matching, and also have enough, hopefully have high enough polling numbers during the actual campaign to qualify for that and qualify for the debates.
Yes.
So you want someone with high name ID on the party. So splitting it in that, having Cornel West, your high name ID person, not on the ballot, does frankly seem kind of self-defeating. I understand why, like, the Libertarian Party was interested in having RFK Jr. potentially, maybe, as the candidate because he does have this high name ID. Now the issue was he's not. He has not identified himself as a libertarian for a long time. He certainly has some views that align with the party. Sure. He has some that don't. So it was going to be is it good enough?
Yeah.
Obviously, there are many libertarians who think candidates we've had in the past were not quite libertarian enough. So that's a strategic calculus you make. But I don't really. I mean, maybe there are like kind of minute different. I don't think the ideological differences between the Green Party and Cornel West are all that stark. I mean, I know people on the left like to find reasons to disagree with each other. It's probably more a tactical and personality-based issues. So that seems like not a good reason to not have him just be the
Well, I pressed him on it, and he certainly did allude to some internal problems, some ideological gaps between him and the Green Party.
Ideological or internal problems with how the party is doing things?
Both some administrative issues and some ideological problems. So, you'll have to, hear that. I don't want to mischaracterize him, so you can listen to it out of his own mouth.
This is how we third parties sabotage ourselves.
Sure, and I really did press him on, given the low likelihood that you're actually going to win, isn't it better to get all the effort and time people put into your campaign in order to the benefit of this party so that the next time around, the next candidate has a better go of it? We talked about that. He feels how he feels. One other distinction between him and RFK Jr. is that RFK Jr. has a super PAC behind him. Yeah. So even if he's unaffiliated, he's got multimillionaires, billionaires willing to contribute to the super PAC that can run ads in states, that can fund ballot collection initiatives or signature collection initiatives and get them on the ballot much more easily than someone like Cornel West. Although on the flip side of that, we have to acknowledge this poll that we've been talking about that shows that an independent, someone running as an independent, automatically has more voter buy-in by a significant margin than someone who identifies as a Libertarian or a Green Party candidate. So it'll be interesting to see how those different factors balance out.
Yeah, it is interesting. Although that has to do a lot with who the specific candidate is. I have a feeling if, for instance, if RFK Jr. was the Green Party candidate or the Libertarian Party candidate, I think his numbers would be much higher than a different candidate of I think it'd be probably
but
close
RFK
to
Jr.
his.
as a Green, I think Libertarian, his audience overlaps more and isn't put off by the idea of Libertarianism. But even though he spent 30 years as an environmental lawyer, for some reason that aspect of his pitch and the fact that he is very interested in the regulatory state, at least when it comes to environmental regulations, seems not to have been really surfaced so far in his campaign. I do feel like if he ran as a Green, a lot of his audience would be clued in to that aspect of his pitch, that aspect of his policy platform, and maybe not be quite so into him.
Well, he would lose perhaps some of the conservatives who are kind of flirting with his candidacy, but he might shore up support among some left people, progressives.
I mean, this is a silly thought experiment because, given his position on war, the Green Party would never allow him to be a candidate. Like, he doesn't ideologically fit the mold.
Well, and given his position on war, the Libertarian Party would never allow him to be a candidate. So he's running as an independent.
All right, fresh off his announcement that he's running as an independent, RFK Jr.'s first stop was Newsmax, where they asked him about the war ongoing in the Middle East. Let's take a look.
We need to confront Iran and explain to Iran that we are going to be there to support Israel. We need to arm Israel. We need to give them access to the armaments that they need and to support them morally. And again, this is not, because of an act of vengeance by the United States. This is just strategically thinking, how do we avoid this expanding into a larger war?
RFK also stopped by Fox News. He was on Fox and Friends, where he rejected Harvard's stance that Israel brought the attacks on themselves, blamed Biden instead. Let's watch.
I think it's a perverse reading of history. President Biden, by giving $6 billion to Iran without any conditions, without any indication or pledges of peace, has probably aggravated the situation.
Well, we got hostages back in exchange.
Yeah, we got hostages back in exchange, and 3 weeks later, there's now new hostages.
I also saw RFK Jr. on Hannity last night. I happened to be flipping channels. I saw him on Fox News with Sean Hannity. Hannity was going after him pretty hard. I mean, it was friendly, but my guess is that there is now an understanding among some conservatives in the conservative media organization, conservative media ecosystem, that RFK Jr. is now
a threat to Trump.
More of a threat to Trump. Yeah. And so, he brought up that RFK Jr. had previously called the NRA a terrorist organization. Asked him to repudiate. Does he repudiate that? RFK Jr. actually said he does repudiate that stance, that he doesn't believe that about the NRA. It was a cordial conversation, but it was I think designed to educate fans of RFK Jr. on the right that he has a long history of stances that do not align with conservatism whatsoever. He is, in fact, a Democrat.
Just like he was a week ago, he was a Kennedy Democrat.
All right, we'll have more Rising right after this.